Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas and Marks with your host, Joe Staszak, and of course, my esteemed co-host, Steve Kallas, Johnny Kallas. Happy Thanksgiving, boys, and welcome to the look ahead, the preview NFL Week 13. Four games in the books already, and we'll get to them shortly. How was your holiday? Everyone doing well? I see everyone's safe.
It was good. Football season's finally underway.
Yeah, it's starting to go sideways over here in these parts. But Steve, how you doing, my friend?
All good. Great to be with you guys as always.
So I wrote a piece equating Black Friday. See, Black Friday around here isn't about shopping, sales, and receipts. Black Friday around here is about the game in 1977 against the Dodgers, where the Phillies were up 2 runs with 2 outs and nobody on in the ninth in game three of a five-game series with Steve Carlton waiting to, pitch the closeout game, and they lost in epic fashion. It was a Friday afternoon game called Black Friday. By the way, Black Friday, the term started in Philadelphia, by the way. Had nothing to do with that though. So I just had it kind of felt it wasn't as epic or monumental. It wasn't a playoff game or whatnot, but it was these games. I talked to a friend of mine. These games aren't fun anymore to watch. Like these are it's like 3 hours of pain. It's like going to get treatment every Sunday at like 1 o'clock, whatever kind of treatment that may be, watching the Eagles play because they had two first downs in the first half, 9 minutes of possession. This is a Bears team, lost their first two games. They were a mess last year under Eberflus. I know Ben Johnson turned them around a little bit, but really, like with that story we read, remember that long piece I sent you, Steve? And
Yeah.
he won. They're won like 8 of 9 games now, and you see them in the locker room every week, and they ran roughshod all over the Eagles. Another seventh round running back. I have shades of Isaiah Pacheco when I see this kid, Kyle, whatever his name is. Two 100-yard rushers by the time there was 3 minutes left in the third quarter. They haven't done that since Sweetness. And you guys know, you heard who was the other one? There's two Bears running backs. They did 1985. Okay. It was awful. And having said that, I thought this was a gift. Like, we're all talking about being grateful for. I was grateful they were only down seven at halftime because of the mess that they, unveiled. That's your answer for not scoring a point from the 11-minute mark in the second quarter against your arch rival in Dallas with a 21-point lead, blowing that's how you respond. And they kind of did. They scored a touchdown, and of course, Jake Elliott, we'll talk about him, misses an extra point. Then the Jalix Hunt turnover, they start running the ball a little bit. But then they did something. See, they're very formulaic, and it's kind of like going with Mitch Williams when he's throwing up like 60-mile-an-hour fastballs. Just because that's what we do. He's our closer. Let's go to the tush push, which hasn't worked in 5 weeks, and while Saquon Barkley's just starting to eat and heat up a little bit, he got him down there. He was running the ball all over the place. And they go to the tush push, and I don't know. It seemed like Jalen's head wasn't really in it during a lot of the series. He played okay here and there in spots, but only to AJ Brown really. And they lost the ball at a turnover there, got stripped. Not only that, but the first play after that was a 31-yard run by that seventh round pick from Rutgers again, right up the field, right to midfield. They score on that possession. They score on the next one. And I know, Steve, you're going to want to talk about the 2-point conversion, but let's bring Johnny in real quick. I have to calm down a little bit. Johnny, what did you think of that mess?
Oh, it was horrible. The Eagles, if you think of the Eagles the last few years, they're starting to remind you more of I guess it would have been the 23 squad, right, Joe, that
That's
started.
what they're all talking about here. Yeah, I'm having triggers and it's flashbacks. It's not good.
Yeah, they've really collapsed the last couple of weeks. I think the biggest concern, we know they've had off problems on the offensive side of the football. Is AJ Brown happy today? 10 receptions, 132 yards, two touchdowns. Hopefully he's not happy. Hopefully he's
He
not.
probably is.
Um, my biggest concern, man, that rush defense looked terrible. I mean, these guys are running 8, 10 yards before even being touched. 47 total carries, 281 yards, 6 yards a carry. Swift, we all know, is a very good running back, but Kyle Monangai, 22 carries, 130 yards. So my biggest concern with the Eagles is just how I don't know where that came out of, that really horrifically bad rush defense. And you're not going to win a lot of football games, any football games, uh, you know, giving up those kind of rushing yards to an opposing team. I agree with you totally, Joe, on the tush push. It hasn't worked in several weeks. The refs are looking to call any penalties they can on the Eagles, and then these teams are just coming in. I mean, they wouldn't have got the first down anyways. I know they probably would have done it again on fourth and short. The teams are coming in and just going after the football. Last thing I'll say before handing it over to Steve. Got to give the Bears some credit, though. I mean, I said that they were a pretty bad 7-3 team at the time, and now they've had a couple of big wins, especially here, by far their biggest of the season. They're leading the NFC North. Caleb Williams wasn't particularly good in this game. He did make one incredibly good touchdown pass rolling left.
Oh, Komet pass was tremendous. Other than that, he wasn't.
He didn't do anything beside, but that was a hell of a pass. But when you run the ball like they did, why get away from the run? Uh,
Right, right.
So no, Eagles, you got to be really concerned. And now, in a division in which seem totally out of reach, there are some real questions with the way the Cowboys are playing. It's not looking good in Philly right now.
I'll just give you a few quick ones following up on the rushing with Johnny. So the Bears had 180 rushing yards, 180 rushing yards before contact. It's happened. Bears have done that twice this year, and in the rest of the NFL, it's only happened once. So you got to give them credit. But Joe, I think we have to go back to our famous Lane Johnson rule. We should use this as a picks purpose. No Lane Johnson, no victory. I think what are they now? 4-11 when Lane Johnson doesn't
They're
play?
4-11 now when Lane Johnson does not suit up for them.
And finally, yeah, I'm glad you left this for me because so it's 24-15. It's 24-15. Are you going to go for one or are you going to go for two? This to me is intro to football. But let me first read you your
And
coach.
Johnny, I want you to comment on this, yeah, because I'll segue, but I want to hear your opinion on it.
Well, here's the quote from the coach. Quote, I've done a lot of studies in that in my notes, and I'll always go for two in that scenario. So I said this to you, but not to Johnny.
Okay, Pete Carroll.
I'm putting him now in the Kevin Cash, Pete Carroll, I do it again. The problem is you're deciding the game, your chance to win the game right there. If you don't get two, there's 3 minutes and 10 seconds left in the game. You ain't scoring twice, I don't think. And so if you go down nine, the game is over. If you're down eight, you can score and then you go for two. I thought even in the history of football, when they used to have this, when they first put in 2-point conversions, you would not go for two unless you absolutely had to. And at that point, they don't absolutely have to. Now, whether Barkley fell down or whatever happened, the game ended to me, the game ended right there. So I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what analytics he has in his notes. And nobody followed up. You love him. They said, well, why'd you go for two? And he gave this answer. And then you're sitting there going, well, why couldn't the guy ask, do you know the game ends if you don't make it? Because maybe his answer will be no. Oh, yeah, we can score twice in 3 minutes and 10
That's
seconds.
what he probably would have said. Well, we still have, we had 3:10 left. We did get the ball. We went down the field. We tried to kick a field goal with 13 seconds. You know what I mean? It was like there's very little chance that was going to happen.
Yeah, I think the final thing for me on that game is I think in the last 2 weeks, I think there's just been like Johnny Joe and I talk about this all the time. Who can you trust now? Can you trust the Eagles? Can you trust the Eagles aren't the Eagles, the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs. I'm sorry. I know we can say Dallas has improved their defense and we'll get to that game. But the Lions, I mean, who can you trust when you thought these would be the Bills? All these teams that were at the top of the list at the beginning of the year. I don't know if any of them really are 1-2. I think the Rams are the best team in football right now, but who knows what will happen this weekend with the Rams? I know they're big favorites as well. So it just doesn't seem you don't have that list of teams that we always had in the past. And it's just going to be different this year, it seems to me.
I'll play devil's advocate for a second on the 2-point conversion. I agree with you guys that you should kick the extra point. I think it would be interesting, and somebody should be keeping track. I don't think this is just a Sirianni thing. I've seen
I
other
said that to
teams.
Steve, or I've seen other coaches do this.
Yeah, when they're down nine, they'll go for two then. as opposed to go for one.
But
Go ahead.
that's not, I've seen that, I don't mean to interrupt, but I've seen that not quite at the in the waning moments though. If you're down 15, because then you're gonna have to go for it twice, but you can do it if you miss the first one. That's if you're gonna do it twice to try to get 16 and usurp the 15-point deficit. I
Right.
is when I've seen it. This you just needed to tie the game. You didn't have an opportunity to do that.
I think the philosophy, so the only two things I'll say, I think part of the philosophy is you have to get two once. You have to make the 2 point conversion once. So it doesn't matter if you do it first or second. I agree with you guys. I would kick the extra point because it shaped, I don't think it would have mattered because the Eagles couldn't stop the run anyways, but I think it shapes the rest of the game. The only other consideration here, I don't think Sirianni would say this because you're throwing your kicker under the bus, is the kicker already missed an extra point, and I don't know what the wind gusts were, but they were pretty bad in Philadelphia. I also think Sirianni would have gone for two twice. I think he would have. I think
You
he
win
wanted
the
to go
game.
for. Yeah, I think he wanted to go for two there to get down seven, and then if they end up scoring again, they go for two to win the game. So
Well,
I
then
think
that's
that's what he
different.
did.
That's different because I think I thought about that too, Johnny, because I was just talking about coaches will do that, and that's probably without maybe he didn't want to bring on more heat to himself, but he and say that, but I think that's maybe what he was thinking.
That's in line with his sort of philosophy and how I think he approaches the game, especially in a game where you can't stop the run at all. Like I
I
said, I don't think
agree.
it would have mattered because they couldn't stop the run. But
Well, I think Joe, like you said, I think I'd agree. If there's 10 minutes left in the game or 8 minutes left in the game, I agree. But with 3 minutes and 10 seconds left in the game, there's no guarantee you're getting the ball twice, never mind scoring twice.
I agree, but there's no guarantee Jake Elliott makes the extra point.
Well, I guess that's true, seeing that he missed one.
And
That's
he missed
but
one.
but
And he
I
missed
agree
it.
with you guys. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, I no, I like that. That's why we pay you big bucks to to come on the show. Okay,
Don't spend it all in one place.
all right, let's move on. Let's go back to Thursday. Let's start at the beginning. Pack Lions. Look, Packers last time I saw the Packers and watched the every play, did not put in a good performance against the Eagles in Lambeau. Come back, had to kind of crawl out of a hole and beat the Giants, and then they've won the next two. So they're on a 3-game winning streak and beating Detroit second time this year. They beat them. They beat them in game one, if you all recall. And everyone was all over the Packers because they played well that game. Um, don't look now, but they're 8-3. And I still, again, I don't trust Jordan Love that much, so I'm not going to get too excited about it. But they were asking him, calling for they were questioning his job security after the Eagles game. Now they've won three straight, and they're 8-3-1. And the Lions, who I thought maybe 5 weeks ago were like the most buttoned up team and explosive and blah blah blah. I don't think they've gotten a fourth down. I don't think they've converted a fourth down attempt since September. It seems like Dan Campbell's now calling the plays, and they're I think they're, as Mike Tyson would say, they're gonna find a way to fade into Bolivia because I don't think they're getting out of the NFC unless they turn things around. But your thoughts on the pack and how they got that done?
Yeah, do you want to go first, Steve?
No, no, you're good.
I think a couple thoughts. First of all, the Packers have shown they could beat anyone, they could lose to anyone. So I agree with you, Joe. It's a little hard to trust Green Bay, though obviously they played really well of late. Dan Campbell made the strategically smart decision for the first time calling plays to do so against the Washington Commanders. And I think if you take the Commanders game out of it, it's been a pretty poor showing. And the fourth down, we go for it any situation at all costs is really there's just it's just when you have I really dislike coaches who have such an approach to the game that it's my way or the highway. We do things the same way no matter what the situation is. And in this case for the Lions, it's go for it on fourth down, go for it on fourth down, go for it on fourth down. And it has hurt them more than it's helped them, especially these last few weeks. Um, you have to, I think, with Green Bay, I need to give a quick shout out to Dontavian Wicks, who had a couple touchdowns and a really huge catch to really ice the game towards the end of it. But they look pretty good on both sides of the football. I think this Micah Parsons trade might end up being one of those rare win-win situations. I mean, I think
I agree
I
with
think
that.
the Cowboys would be probably better with him right now, and they actually look like maybe their game. though their defense is coming into shape. They had a ton of capital in exchange for him. But Parsons had two big sacks in this game, at least two. I think it was just two big sacks. And then the Packers look like an overall good football team. But I'm with you, Joe. I don't trust Jordan Love for multiple games in the playoffs. I think they have a good chance to win the North now, though the Bears are still in the driver's seat. I'll let Steve talk about, what the Lions have become because it's not pretty.
Well, I'll just go to your point quickly. They were 0 for 5 2 games ago, and that was that game that was like 6-3, 9-6, 13-10. And what I said last week with Joe, which was carry on here today, but if you're in a low scoring game, those field goal, I mean, one they were like from the 4 yard line or something. Those field goals in that kind of game to me are almost like a touchdown. This isn't one of these, 38-35 games. This is again 2 games ago, and they were 0 for 5. Now I know yesterday, maybe you can tell me more again. I'm sorry, against the Packers. I know the first 2 times they went for it on fourth down, they didn't make it. So that's 7 in a row. At what point do you wake up and say, yeah, it might not be a good idea, especially if you're giving away 3 automatically, which is what they did the week before. But the one thing I did want to point out, which I did not see during the game, and I give ESPN credit for this one, with 2 minutes and 16 seconds left in the half, the Packers were 4th and 1 from the 2.5 yard line. And as they show you later, they had a camera that had the line of scrimmage and the Packers coach, Matt LaFleur, running down to call timeout. And definitely the Packers were false start, a split second, but a clear you could see it, of course, with the camera on replay, a split second after, and they gave him the timeout. And that turned, because they're going for it. First of all, they only got to get to the 1 or they can score a touchdown. So if they move them back to the 7, or the 7.5 yard line, they're kicking the field goal. It's, instead of 17-7, it's going to be 13-7. And I think even mentally, because there was 2 minutes left in the half, that was a big play. Afterwards, they asked LaFleur, I thought this was interesting. I don't know if the NFL does anything, but they go, well, what about that? I guess people had known it right after the game. So what about that timeout when, just right before the half? And he said, yeah, of course I did it on time. And he winks. He winks on camera. And I'm like, I don't, he said, all I was doing was calling timeout. So the refs clearly missed that one. Interesting question, Joe and Johnny. I don't think you can. Is something like that reviewable? I assume not. But clearly, and clearly by this much, but clearly they were offsides before the timeout was requested.
False start, false start.
False start. So,
Well, that's a false start.
I think
It's not right. It's not reviewable. It's not reviewable.
Yeah, of course. I think the Lions are a disappointment because they made the big deal, as Johnny said, with Campbell, who I love, but I think he's in a rut. I think it's we go for 4 anytime, we go on fourth down anytime, and that's an accident waiting to happen as well. But I don't know if he can change it because look, he played in the Giants. He was a tight end. We all loved him. He was a lunatic tight end, and I mean that in a good sense. But this is hurting. Joe, we've talked all year and last year about, will Campbell do something in the big playoff game to lose it? And I think he's one coach who could be on that short list of doing it.
But here's the thing, Stephen. You mentioned a few weeks ago, why is Nick Sirianni? They were trying to eat up clock to end the game, and he's throwing, and they did some things that were. I said that's what they do. That's what they do. They tried to go for the win there. They go for the first down. But here's the thing: you don't know just because that's kind of your identity. You don't have to do that every single time out.
Right.
Like the tush push, Johnny and I were just talking about it. It hasn't been that effective lately, and they were starting to get some momentum with Saquon. I would have run another Saquon play, and then if you don't get it, maybe try the 4th and 1 on a tush push. But like, I think there was a 4th and 3 that they were in there, like you're talking about Dan Campbell. Like, just because that's what we do and we go for it on every, you don't have to. You have to have a feel for the game a little bit, I think, and every situation is different.
You're right.
That's what I think. Let's jump ahead to the Chiefs and the Cowboys. The Cowboys beat both finalists last year in a 5-day period or 4-day period. They beat the Eagles and Chiefs. And if you go back, that's why I love the NFL. You watch how they started the season. They were giving up, 40, 50 points a game. And now I didn't believe it until yesterday. I still don't. And people are saying, "Well, you got to be careful. The Dallas Cowboys are coming." Yeah, yeah, whatever. And then I saw the mess at Lincoln Financial Field. I still don't. They don't worry me necessarily, unless it is a collapse of like 2023 Giant, like you said. But I thought Dak was great all year. Has been great all year. Even in some of those epic losses, even the tie against Green Bay where they gave up 40, he matched, the Packers with 40. He tied the game. He's been great, I think, all year. Like beyond Dak great. Now again, he has been like this before, couple 13-3 seasons. His rookie year with Zeke, then he had another one, and they take a first round bow out in the playoffs. Um, so I'd have to see him play in big games, but they beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs anymore either. I think we're still thinking of the Chiefs as who they were, not who they are. Probably like how we're viewing them right now. But Chiefs are 6-6 now, and the Cowboys are, what are the Cowboys? Cowboys are
6-5-1.
6-5. First time above 500 all year. And excuse me, and the defense looks a little better too with some of the moves they made. And was it you, Johnny, that said that that might be a win-win for both teams, the Micah Parsons? I agree with that. I like what they did, and they got hammered, they got killed over that. But I think what they're going to do, and with some of the trades they made, and still having a couple picks, I think they did fine.
Yeah, and I would say one of the two or three, or maybe arguably the best offseason acquisition any team in football, George Pickens.
I
Joe, I
mean,
think
George Pickens has been phenomenal. He didn't want to be in Pittsburgh anymore. I know they went out and got DK Metcalf. He hasn't lived up to what they thought he would be as of yet. Pickens has been a monster.
he's unbelievable. Even when Lamb was out, he played like a bona fide number one. Now they might need to chase some money to keep him. That's another question. And do you want to throw that much money at somebody who's been a little up and down, both on and off the field throughout his career? But it's hard to find a better play in football right now than a slant pass to George Pickens. I mean, he's just absolutely dominant. 6 receptions, 88 yards. CeeDee Lamb had an even better game, 7 receptions, 112, and a touchdown. But I think one of the reasons you see Dak even improving so much this year is because he has two legitimate number one options at him, and it's just really tough to cover these guys. Just also as a brief note, I don't think we mentioned this at the top. All four underdogs won outright the last 4 games, right? The Cowboys, I think, were the one home underdog. They went outright, but all of I think the Packers were underdogs, Bengals were definitely underdogs, Bears were underdogs. So if you like that money line for the underdogs, you did pretty well the last 4 games. The only thing on the Chiefs, Mahomes actually I thought played pretty well. His numbers were quite good. The Chiefs have a hard time in the fourth quarter. They did beat the Colts, and I think a lot of people saw that as a turnaround game, and maybe they're for real. They just don't win fourth quarters, man. I mean, a year after going, it was either 10 or 11 and 0 in one score games. I think they're now 1-6
That's right.
in 2025 in one score games. And this is really that's the difference between last year and this year. It's that they don't win fourth quarters. And it's been a combination of there's been times where Mahomes and the offense has had a chance to ice the game. They went 3 and out in Denver, gave the ball to Denver, who went down and scored to win. Or in this case, they can, stop Dallas to give Mahomes a chance to at least get a field goal to tie it, and they just couldn't get off the field. Their defense, I think, in large part because Chris Jones has taken a big step downwards. He had a couple actually nice plays in this game, but in general, he's not the Hall of Fame Chris Jones, who I think should easily be a Hall of Famer because of his contributions to this dynasty.
Oh, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, McDuffie got exposed, had a couple of DPIs trying to guard CeeDee Lamb because, it's tough. They got two number one receivers.
Two number ones. That's a dynamite tandem.
And the blitzes, Spags just I don't know if it's they're not executing or he's just not dialing up as well. But the Chiefs, I'd say primarily because of their defense or their offense has better time. They are just not a good fourth quarter team, and that's the difference between 11-1 at this point last year, 6-6 now. 10-7 might not get it for them because they lose all these tiebreakers. So to guarantee themselves a spot in the playoffs, I was actually surprised to see Mahomes do this. They have to go 5-0, which Mahomes said we have to win out. You guys just have to win your next game, man. I mean, you got a good Houston team. We'll see what they do against Indy. coming into Arrowhead. Granted, their three toughest games remaining against Houston, against the Chargers, and I think the Broncos are at Arrowhead, and they have two easy ones on the road, Tennessee and the Raiders. I'm not quite until they're dead. I'm not going to say they're dead. I have too
I
much.
always say that. Well, as long as you got Dracula slinging it back there wearing that 15 jersey, I'm not
Yeah,
taking my eye
so
off them.
but I do think because 10-7 they have a chance. They 11-6 is the only way they control their way into the playoffs. But no, it's not looking good in Philly. It's looking even worse in Arrowhead right now.
I'll just go back briefly to the Packers game when you talked about the Dallas trade. I'm not sure it was even because you're not going to see they got Clark, who's a Pro Bowl player, a defender, don't get me wrong.
Kenny
But
Clark.
Micah Parsons went over 12 sacks for this year. He's the first player. Now, the beauty, at least one time for ESPN, they put up since 1982 when sacks became, we talked about this last week, I think, Joe. There's no purple people eaters in there. There's no, when Dallas was off the charts unbelievably defensively with their front four, even the Giants at times in the 60s and 70s had an incredible front four. None of those guys get credit for sacks, but Parsons is the first guy since 1982, which of course nowadays is 43 years. That's a big deal. First guy to get 12 or more sacks in his first 5 seasons. And I still think, Johnny, last week we talked about Garrett, who's going to break that record. Hopefully, we won't go into Brett Favre or anything. But Dallas, they got better defensively at the trade deadline. They picked up a couple of guys, I think, and that's made their defense all the more different because that's how they can make some noise. We know their offense is really good, but every week we're going wide. Oh, they're going to score a lot of points on Dallas's defense. And Mahomes, 4 touchdown passes, don't take that away from him, but they're just not quite. I also looked at 10 penalties, 119 yards. And Johnny, you're right about the McDuffie thing because you got to get more. And this is where normally SPACs came in the past. We were always saying last year and the year before, they're a defensive team. They're a defensive team. They won, like Johnny said, I think it was 12 games actually last year, one score games, and they are 1-6 this year, and that's all the difference in the world. So I think the Chiefs are not the Chiefs, the Eagles are not the Eagles, the Lions are not the Lions, if you consider the Lions to be in that higher echelon. And Dallas is a factor because they're 6-5-1, but they can run I think Tony Romo even said they can run the table. There's a chance they can run the table. And as for the Chiefs, you're right, Johnny. It's almost like I guess he's laying it down for his teammates. We have to win every game, but you're right. It's the old one game at a time, one game at a time. And it's also true their three tough games are at home, and their two easy games are on the road. So they're going to win those two. But they do have Denver at the end of the year. Denver's been unbelievable this year defensively, and somehow the offense finds a way in the fourth quarter to win these games, whether it's 10-7 or you're down 32, whatever they were down and when they scored 33 points in the fourth quarter against, I won't even say who. But no, give Dallas is a
They were
big threat.
trailing 19 by 19 in the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah, you don't want to play that. This is one of those you don't want to play them in the playoffs. But as Johnny already said, you don't want to play the Chiefs in the playoffs either. If they're out of the playoffs, then we'll say that they're dead, but not till that happens. And I don't know that that will happen. But I think the 10-7, 11-6 thing is a big difference. And they certainly can lose one of those three games, but they're all at Arrowhead.
Yeah, and the only quickly what I'll say about Dallas, and look, Joe, I'm curious. I think you said you're still not too concerned about them. I don't know if that was before or after yesterday's game in terms of the division. I don't. I think Dallas could make a run for the playoffs, so I think they're still a couple games back, or maybe just one game back in the loss column to San Francisco. But I don't know if Dallas is built to go on the road to a cold weather stadium. So I'm not sure wild card weekend on the road in a place like Philly or that offense is set up I think to be and I think they're much better at home than on the road, and that's before we get to bad weather. So I'm not sure how worried I am about Dallas going deep in the playoffs unless they find a way to get a home game, which I think would shake things up a little bit.
My thing was the Eagle. I was looking more at the Eagles' schedule. They do have the Bills, who I'm not sure if they are who we thought they were.
Right.
But they have the Commanders twice and the Raiders. I know it's the NFL. I don't like to say, oh, that's an easy game. That's a win. Steve, we can talk about it every week. But it's not as it doesn't seem as taxing as like the early half of their schedule. And it's probably better that they actually were playing better then because they won at Kansas City, they won at Minnesota. I mean, they won at Green Bay. They won a lot of their big games this year in the meat of their schedule. Now they have the Commanders twice. I know Jay Daniels, I think, might be coming back. The Raiders are kind of a bleep show, but you never know. I mean, before the Chiefs went on to win two straight Super Bowls, they turned the ball over 5 times on Christmas Day against the Raiders, and they were terrible, and they won the game. Like that stuff can happen. But that's what I was thinking, and I maybe I'm still not seeing how the Eagles are, how bad it is. I'm still hoping they're gonna because I still see they have a lot of talent. There's not a lot of injuries except for Lane Johnson that they shouldn't be able to come out of this. But that's the thing, John. You mentioned it. It has a really eerie, similar feel to 2023, and that's why people in this town are freaking because I think it's gonna. That's why I wrote an article saying don't go changing coordinators now. That's what they did when they elevated Matt Patricia 2 years ago, and they really tanked after that. And I was saying it was his fault. Apparently changed all the verbiage and all the everything. Like he didn't come in and it wasn't a smooth transition. And I think he's good at what he does, but I thought that was too late. I thought it would have been a panic move. Anyway, talk about the Bengals and the Ravens. Joe Burrow's back and he goes in. I know the Ravens have been kind of resurging and resurrecting, how bad they were earlier in the year. They're from a record standpoint. But if you watch them play the last few weeks, they really haven't been that dynamic. They've won games, but they really haven't been like the Ravens, who I think a lot of folks projected them to be before the season, and even with Lamar Jackson back. And then, Joe Burrow comes back. I love Joe Burrow. Joe Cool, man, comes back. He's been out since like, September, comes back and he just, drops 32 on them. Your thoughts, Steve?
Well, they won't say it, but they have to run the table to have a chance to be 9-8. And the interesting now, Johnny, in retrospect, was we talked about how Joe and I didn't think, and you probably didn't either, that he'd go Sunday Patriots Thursday, but now he's gone Thursday with a win and now 10 days. But I think some people in Cincinnati will be saying, oh, he threw 46 times. How bad could he be? He could have played. We could have beat the Patriots. That might come up hindsight is 2020 type thing if they really do. But he's Joe Burrow. He really Joe is right. He's a different cat. He's just there, and eventually hooked up with his guy Chase. At the beginning was a little shaky, but he hadn't played since week 2. So I give him all the credit in the world. And Lamar just I think he's playing hurt because he just can't. He used to just blow by guys and make them miss, and he's getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage when he's trying to run, and that virtually never happens to him when he's 100%. I will say just for Henry got his 10th touchdown of the year. So he's got 8 seasons with 10 or more touchdowns, and only LaDainian Tomlinson has done that over 8 seasons. We don't call him LT here in New York, Joe, because there's only one LT and it's not LaDainian.
Right, right.
That's another thing. But no, I give the Bengals credit. But I don't know if they can run the table. I don't know if he's going to make it through the season, but I'll say it again. To play that game, and he is Joe Burrow, he wants to play, to throw it 46 times, and was on the run a bunch of times just to, avoid a sack. But Lamar, 3 turnovers, turnovers kill him. Um, and then the likely fumble. I mean, we always see this thing and we say, oh, they should get it on the one. When it goes straight back out of the end zone, I think likely was there, got stripped at the goal line, but the ball was out before he hit the beginning of the white line, went out in the back, and that's a touchback for the other team. They get the ball. And I never understand it when it's on the side. And, it's like you're at the 1 yard line and it falls through at 1 yard. But the rule is what the rule is. It's been there for 100 years. So I think that was you could argue that's the turning point of the game as well. One of these take a touchdown off the board and the other team gets the ball at the 20. So the Ravens aren't the Ravens. We've made that list. The Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions, the Ravens are on that list as well. So it's really a different analysis now, I think, when you're looking at these games.
Yeah, I was really disappointed watching Baltimore's offense. Lamar played bad.
He was
Uh,
bad.
he was really bad. It's not just the turnovers. He had a couple plays late. He had a run option with Henry, who, by the way, Derrick Henry has come along now. He started the season, had fumbling problems, looked a little bit old for a couple weeks. He had 11 touches for over 100 yards. This was a one-score game most of the night. You gotta get who I think now is your best player on your offense, better than Lamar. I don't know if Lamar's hurt or what. you can't have Derrick Henry only get 11 touches in a game like this. He's got
Right.
to get, I think, at least 20, but at least 15, 20, especially when he goes for over 100 yards on 11 touches. There was one play, there were a couple plays late. It was just before. I think it might have been another turnover by Lamar, but he had a read option where if he would have handed the ball off to Henry, you could see he was frustrated in the moment. I think Henry would have scored a touchdown. It was from inside the red zone. Instead, Lamar kept it for a no gain. There was another play where the Bengals brought an all-out blitz. Mark Andrews chipped, then went out. Nobody was around him. Lamar totally missed him. It was a really bad day for Lamar, who as is playing like an average quarterback. Once again, I don't know if he's still hurt or what's going on. You got to love Joe Burrow. You're right. He's the new Joe Cool. Can I say that, Steve? I don't know if that's
Yeah, you
appropriate,
could say that.
but there was one point late in the game where he's saying, "Calm down, Ted." Ted Karras, their center, who was a member of the Patriots for 4 years. We got time, Ted, and he was counting down the play clock. 8, 7, 6. It was pretty funny. If you guys didn't see it, you should check that out.
Who was doing that?
He was doing it late in the game. He was just counting down. He was telling Karras, the center, that we have time. They wanted to kill clock, and he was just counting down the play clock in real time. It was just a very classic, cool
It was a cool move.
Joe Burrow moment. And look, I think they need to win out, but I have to say, if the Steelers lose to the Bills, you got 6-6, 6-6, 4-8. The Bengals still have two against the Ravens. I wouldn't put it out. I think you need to go to 9-8 to win this division. But the way the Ravens are playing and the Steelers, and arguably what we would think is the best division in football, I wouldn't be shocked if 8-9 ends up winning it. I mean, these teams are not playing well, and the Bengals are still very much live, and they got two against or I think they have one more, I guess now against Baltimore, I think still to go. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see. Texans, Steve, you mentioned earlier in the show about that they were coming on, and they have been coming on. And in fact, they look like who'd they smack around? They smacked the Bills around last week. Playing a Colts team with no Daniel Jones. I don't know how long you guys know about he's injured, right? He broke his.
Yeah, but last I heard he had practiced this week. Is he out now?
Well, I thought I read something yesterday saying he does have a broken fibula, but they're not sure. They're still evaluating how long he's going to be out.
Interesting.
It looked to me like he wasn't playing, but again, I was doing it was like
They said
Thanksgiving.
I see something on Sports Illustrated that he's going to play with a fractured fibula. I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
me neither.
Although Donovan threw 4 touchdowns once with a broken ankle, so I guess it can be done, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's like a hairline. But um, so the Colts 8-3 against the Texans. Johnny, you want to take that game because you got an injured Daniel Jones, and there have been some games this year. You know, the when they got into again a street fight with the Steelers, Steelers messed them up pretty good. They blew a big lead to the Chiefs. Does he have signature wins that really haven't been fueled by Jonathan Taylor? I'm talking about Daniel Jones.
Yeah, no, we're not doing picks yet, right? We're just analyzing
No,
this
we're just
game.
analyzing.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this. I'm taking the Texans plus 3.5.
I am too. I saw that.
Stroud's coming back. Stroud actually hasn't been particularly great. I think Houston's defense is suffocating. I mean, what they did against Buffalo, sacking Josh Allen 8 times, I don't know if that's ever been done. So even though they're on the road, yeah, Daniel Jones, I put him sort of in maybe he's not quite Sam Darnold yet because Darnold has a couple really good years, but can you win big games? I'm not so sure. I think the Chiefs have the blueprint against the Colts. You do everything in your power to slow down Jonathan Taylor, who is far and away the best player on the Colts. And you make Daniel Jones beat you. Now, the Colts will be at home, so Jones you would think is a little bit more comfortable, but that Houston front four is ferocious. I like Houston. I like their defense. So I think this is going to be a tough one for the Colts, especially if Jones is playing injured.
Steve, your thoughts?
On that game, I'm not picking it either way because I think it's a toss-up. But the Texans' defense has become one of, if not even, you could argue the best with
You've
Denver.
been very good.
As defense, their front four can get there with only four, which kind of obviously helps them on the back end. And look, Daniel Jones, I don't know how much he's been tested. I know his numbers against the blitz aren't that good, and maybe they don't really blitz that much, but maybe they make a choice, third down, take a shot or whatever. So if I had to pick the game, I would pick the Texans. But this is all about Jonathan Taylor to me. But now, presumably, they're going to, look at stopping him because you don't know what you're getting with Daniel Jones. But you'll know after a quarter, if not earlier.
Okay, how about Rams at Panthers? Panthers, they're up and down all year, and their record reflects that 6-6. Rams, Matthew Stafford, he surpassed, Nick Foles is 27-2. I think he's like 31-2 now, since he threw a couple picks earlier in the season. He's been phenomenal to me. He's like the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. Laying 10 to the Panthers. Again, we're not doing picks right now, but uh, any chance they stumble here?
Can I just say,
Yeah, Johnny, go
I
ahead.
know you guys like the Foles 27-2, but there was a certain quarterback with number 12 who happened to be 28-2 for 12 games in 2016 during a BS shortened season. So I just want to, but I do love Nick Foles, despite what he did to the Patriots in February of 2018. In terms of no, the Panthers, man, talk about an up and down team. The Rams are 10.5 point favorites on the road. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't think I would touch that game from a spread standpoint. I think the Rams are much better than the Panthers. Though Bryce Young, a couple times has um, shown you quite a lot. And Carolina's actually they're playing for a lot. They're very much live in the NFC South. I still think it's the Bucks division to lose. I'd be careful picking this game, but it's hard to see the Rams stumbling against an inconsistent opponent. The Rams really, they're the most complete team in football. They're excellent defensively. They have a good running game with Kyren Williams. Stafford's playing as smart and as good as any quarterback in football. And talk about another team with arguably two number ones. I mean, Devontae Adams right up there with Pickens, and I guess used to be T. Higgins. By the way, I should say Joe Burrow had a really good game without T. Higgins. That was pretty impressive, who suffered a pretty bad concussion a few days ago.
yeah, saw that.
Um, so yeah, I mean, and then Puka Nacua is my favorite receiver in football. I think, especially the best all-around player when you talk about
Phenomenal.
being able to take a jet sweep, also block. Really great, obviously, in the passing game. So I think you got to like the Rams to win the game. 10.5 on the road is a lot of points.
A lot of points. That's why I stay away from those big games. All right, well, let's do picks now that we have it. Steve, you want to start?
Well, I wanted to pick Johnny's three, but I guess I'll.
Take my three and pick the opposite. That's take the other team of my three.
We finally got a guy with some intelligence to make picks, Joe. So
Right.
put his up, have to put his up in caps, all caps. I'm going to take, I like the Rams too, but 10.5, I agree, is too much. Don't forget, the Panthers. And Bryce, what did he throw for 448 yards 2 starts ago and was nowhere to be found last week? And
Yeah.
I understand his defenses and stuff, but I'm going to skip that game. Although I agree with you guys, the Rams are going to win. I'm going to take the Bucks at home -4.5. It looks like Baker's okay, and if he can even move his left shoulder, he's going to come in and play. But he did take a couple of hits on that, and even when they took him out of the game, he threw the ball with his right, as far as he could throw, and his left shoulder was hurting. But also Godwin looks like Godwin's going to play. We've talked about it all year, Joe. When is Godwin and Evans and Baker going to
Right.
be on the same field?
Ibuka.
But just Godwin's, I think, and their defense, I think, will be enough. Bucks at home -4.5. Over the Cardinals. These other two games are, you'll tell me both. Well, I guess the Jaguars have something to play for, but taking the Jaguars on the road against the Titans -6.5, just because I think the Titans are horrible and the Jaguars have been a little improved lately. And I think they're playing for something. They have a chance. And then because the Jets are just so terrible, in my opinion, I'm going to take the Falcons -2.5 at the Jets. Isn't Cousins the quarterback now? Isn't he the Falcons quarterback?
Yeah.
So I think he's got a little stuff to prove, and I just don't think the Jets are that good. Their defense is pretty good. Their offense is okay. But I think the Falcons, who are also another up and down team, I think they could blow out the Jets, but I think -2.5, I think they can win by a field goal.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes because it's been a rough year. Not putting my picks public airwaves. So maybe this will be a good change of fortune. Um, I don't dislike Steve's pick of the Bucks. I'll go into slightly different. I was deciding between that game and the one I'm going to pick, but I'll just go for it. I'm not believing in Shador. I'm not. I'm going with some analytics. He had, despite their win, you know what his QBR scale 1 to 100 was last year? Last week 8.5.
Oof.
That 60-yard screen pass, and then he did have one good throw rolling right,
When he
throwing deep.
rolled right, yeah.
But the advanced analytics really didn't like him. I love the Browns defense. The over-under is 35 and a half. Doesn't get much lower than that. But it is a fair amount of points on the road, but I think Purdy hopefully won't turn the ball over 3 times and a half, and I'll take the 49ers minus 4.5 on the road in Cleveland. I'm going to go, like I said, we analyzed this earlier, but I'll take the Houston getting 3.5 points on the road in Indy. And then I know what I just said about the Rams on the road. I think we lost Joe there for a second. Um, I know what I just said about the Rams on the road against the Panthers getting all those points, but man, Seattle has beaten up on bad teams. JJ McCarthy, I don't know if it would matter if he's playing or not. He's played pretty horribly. He's not going to play. I don't even know the Vikings are started. So it's a lot of points, but I think the Seahawks have beaten up on bad teams. They're at home in a tough place to play. I'll take them minus 11 and a half.
Here I come. How's that camera? Is that camera okay?
It looks,
Cameron's there. We don't see you though.
No,
yeah.
while I'm over here.
Oh, okay.
Here I come. I'm fixing the camera. Yeah.
So I'll recap. I got Niners minus 4.5 at Cleveland, Houston plus 3.5 at Indy, and Seattle at home minus 11.5 over Minnesota.
All right, Johnny. I like the Texans. I already mentioned that 3.5, the way they're playing over the Colts, guy with a broken leg. Um, I like I'm going with the Bills. I think the Bills will get right. Pittsburgh to me has not shown me a whole lot offensively. I think the Bills are a better team. They're laying 3 on the road. I don't usually like doing that. Tomlin has a very good record at home as a dog, although this year I think he's 500. But I'm taking the Bills. You know what? No, let me scratch that because this is what I wanted to do. I forgot, and I'm going back to this. There are 2 games where a favorite's 5.5 points. I'm taking the
Uh-oh.
underdog in both those games. I'm just going to have some fun this week. I'm going with the Saints. Saints are getting 5.5. That's a real barn burner game. Saints at Dolphins. I'm taking the Saints on the road in Miami plus 5.5, and then I'm going with the Commanders against that team I have been saying is overrated all year, and I'm going to go with that. The Broncos, even though it's hard to be overrated. It's a 9-2 team, but they made me look bad because I've been ripping them all year and they keep winning. I'm going with the Commanders plus the 5.5 at home over the Denver Broncos.
Well, I have a quick question. Which has happened more recently? The Broncos have won by more than 5.5 points, or the Commanders have lost by less than 5.5 points or won the game? I don't know. That's
That's a good point. That's a good
no,
point.
I like your. I don't know when the Broncos are winning 10-7, 22-19.
Yeah, the Broncos are winning tight. They're winning tight, but the command. What's Jane Daniels' status? Is he going to play?
I don't think so.
No, he's not going to play. Okay. Um,
Yeah, he's
with
not
that
playing.
5.5 line, that still stands. Doesn't it's not quarterback contingent. That 5.5. I'm gonna take that. It was a Marcus Mariota. Is he the Commanders guy? Um, in case if Daniels doesn't play, so I will take it. So I got the Texans plus 3.5. I got the Saints plus 5.5, and I got the Commanders plus 5.5. You guys know I love dogs. Great stuff, fellas. Any final thoughts, Johnny? Real quick, your Patriots looking to go 11-2 against the Giants.
Yeah, Dart's going to play, and the Giants can't win a game, but they certainly know how to cover.
They do. They're a good cover team. They're usually up double digits in the fourth.
Yeah, maybe we should have thought about that. But no, New England at home. Yeah, look, the Pats, they have a really late bye, so they have this game and then they go into their bye. And then they have a couple big games against the Bills and Ravens. The only thing I saw the strength of schedule stats, and the Patriots have an easier strength of schedule by like 5 percentage points than any other team in the league. So I don't think we'll know until January just how good the Patriots are, but they're well in line to get that, not just win the East, which I think is pretty much in hand, but to get that first round bye. So we'll see.
Steve, your
I just
thoughts?
want to do a couple NBA things
Oh
quickly.
yeah, go ahead, bro.
But first, I just want to say I've written down everybody's picks for next week, so we won't be able to walk away from them next week. And my final complaint, and I appealed to two people on this one. When I picked the Patriots last week, Joe, you said it was -5.5, and I saw it at -6.5, and then they win by 6. So I appealed to you since you said 5.5 when we were on the air. Why can't that be a win? You shot me down for the 47th time in our careers. I called up Johnie and he shot me down. So just a waste of time, I guess.
We're in sync.
But NBA, congratulations to Jokic, who on Tuesday this past week had his 10th triple-double in 17 games. Now, I don't know. They put it up on ESPN as like a record. He's the second fastest, but I don't know if it's the first 17 games of the season, for example. When did you get 10 triple doubles or in the history of basketball? I think it was the first, it took him 17 games. He got 10 at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to go on that. But he's second all time. Now, who could possibly be first? And how many games did it take him to get 10 triple doubles, Joe?
Was it his birthday recently? Was he
Yeah.
87 recently?
Yes.
How about
Yes.
that Oscar Robertson? I'm just going to go
Uh,
off the board and go with Oscar Robertson.
Okay. Now it took Jokic. I assume you agree with that, Johnny. It took Jokic 17 games to get those 10 triple doubles. How many games? Keep in mind, they didn't even know what a triple double was back then. How many games in 1961 did it take Oscar Robertson? I'm assuming that's his second season in the league to get 10 triple doubles.
12.
That's right. Did you know
My
that?
man, my man. Yeah, Johnny, my
Goodness
man.
gracious.
Wish I could have bet that.
Okay, one final one now. I've already sent this to Johnny, so this is just for you, Joe. Put it up on ESPN. All time history of the NBA, most career 40-point and 10 assist games. Congratulations to Luka Doncic, who
Saw
is
that.
in for a tie for third all time. He's got 23 of those with the great Tiny Archibald, one of my heroes when I was a little guy from the Bronx. Was like 5'10", even though they say it was 6'1". I hate to say it, I don't think he's the only guy anymore, but once led the league in scoring and assists, and nobody had ever done that until I can't remember his name, so I won't say it. Actually, I can. I don't want to say it. So those two are tied for third. In second place, Joe, is none other than James Harden, who has 32 of those games. So you got Tiny Archibald and Luka with 23 games, 40 points, and 10 assists in the history of basketball, tied for third. You got James Harden with 32 of those in second. Who could be first? And how many 40-point plus 10 assist games did he have?
I'm going to go with the same guy I just mentioned.
That's correct.
I think it's a ridiculous number, but I might come back a little bit off. I'm going to say 87.
Nope, 87. I'm sorry, only 46. He only has double the amount of the two guys tied for third. That's all I'll say. And I'm trying to give Johnny a list of all my Oscar things before I pass away in the, I don't know, hopefully next 25 years or something. But I wanted to at least have an Oscar file when I'm
Oh,
no
I love
longer.
Oscar. I kind of wonder if Luke is going to catch him. That'll be close.
Yeah, you're right. But,
So your dad's opened my eyes to Oscar. Yeah, I always thought like, oh, the Big O. Yeah, it's a cool nickname.
I'll
Whatever.
just say he's halfway there,
He's
Johnny.
halfway there. Good stuff, guys. Appreciate you coming on, Johnny, as usual. And of course, you folks, you can catch Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can also catch this podcast on YouTube and also all the audio outlets each week during the NFL season, Friday, sometimes Saturday, holiday weekend. We're doing it Saturday because it's waited for the Eagles. Game only the third Black Friday NFL game, by the way, fellas, yesterday. And we'll be around Tuesday to recap week 13. Again, on YouTube and all the audio outlets. We appreciate you watching. For Steve Callis and Johnny Callis, I'm Joe Staszak. Appreciate it, boys. Have a great rest of your weekend and be careful.
Take care, you guys.
You
Always a
too.
pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, folks. Enjoy your weekend and happy Thanksgiving and an early Merry Christmas.